Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Sonata playthrough. We're still in the Tri-crescendo ruins, and we are now on Jealousy Island. And don't worry, we're not going to be here for a ludicrous amount longer. Still a bit of a while, because I can't remember what I wanted to get everybody up to. I'm certainly not getting them all up to... I think the recommended level is 40, I feel? For the next boss fight. But I mean, I could be slightly wrong on that, but really it begins to be at this point where I started to just go no to the recommended levels, because otherwise I'd just be stuck in these dungeons for a very long time. And well, as I've said, I love this battle system, I love this game. I was reaching the point where I was just like, just want to finish it now. I love it to pieces, but I just want to get to the very long slog that is the optional dungeon and beat that, because then I'll be very happy with myself.
I'm ready to go.
And yeah, the Tri-crescendo ruins was just getting in my way. But yes, we are going to have some slightly confusing music occur. Slightly confusing music? What? Some slightly confusing plot occurring towards the end of this part. Just to further add to the slight weirdness of the Sonata. Obviously, this whole dream thing going on. We've got the whole thing with the
battle isn't over yet.
The stone and potentially some sort of loop, and so that's just quite intriguing. But since we're still just poddling along through this dungeon, I feel it's potentially a good time to bring up that a few songs can be heard throughout the game, but actually only on the PS. So you can hear one of Chopin's Mazurkas, specifically Op. 33 No. 4 Mazurka in B minor, as well as the Funeral March from Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor, Op. 55, which could be heard by listening to pianos in the game. But the tunes were not included on the soundtrack. Both pieces were added for the PlayStation 3 release and are not available in the 360 version, so okay, only PS3 version. You can find the pianos in the 360 version, but they don't play those tunes when examined. You also had the tunes of Lament the Royal Mirror, Little Dog Waltz, 321 Summer, and 321 Crescendo added for the game's PS3 release, and so those were not included on the soundtrack. The 321 Summer and Lament the Royal Mirror were featured in one of the tracks of Trusty Bell, Chopin no Yume, the drama CD. So there was a CD album that dramatised the events of the game, and consists of original narration, music from the game by Motoi Sakuraba, and dialogue from the characters. And obviously was only ever released in Japan, and is thus a somewhat rare import, partially because obviously it was never translated for the English language release of A Tale Sonata, because why the hell would it be? Now, 321 Summer was the theme of the Church of Ezi, which is obviously only a dungeon accessible in the PS3 version, and I don't know about Lament, but I think... Oh yes, so Lament is the Royal Mirror in Baroque Castle that we don't get to see in this version of the game, because it was only really added in the PS3 version, and it leads to the extra dungeon that they added. So while they're present in this particular dramatisation, they're not present in the actual CD, and so on and so forth. Now, if you wanted to know the name of, well, the names of the tracks on that dramatisation, you've got Prologue, Puzzle of a Go-Go, House of Viola, Interchange with Miyasetsuto, Research of Side Lever Glasses, Sign, Invasion to Underground Prison, Forte Castle Laboratory, Escape and Truth, Messiah, Fight, and Epilogue. Now those may give you some hints as to where the narrative is going, but really I wouldn't have said it really does, because none of that really makes any sense, apart from perhaps Messiah, because that does have some bearing on some of the things that are going to occur, but you're probably not necessarily going to figure out what they relate to. So that is all good, and can't really be judged as a spoiler. And I think we only have about 5 more battles after this before the dungeon's complete. So that certainly makes me very happy. And this is Mirage Blow. Yeah, I was expecting something quite dramatic. It wasn't really as dramatic as I would have hoped.
Not bad.
I think he has an alternate one which he does in the light. I can't remember what the heck it's called. We'll see it eventually. Which I think looks better. But yeah, Mirage Blow was a bit of a disappointment, let's put it that way. But yeah, it was also around this point where what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start taking up more of the save slots on my memory card. It was largely just because situations kept occurring where, you know, they would the recording software would freak out a little bit, and I'd end up having to go, right, let's try and save it in another slot file, so in case I have to go back and re-record stuff. Thankfully most of it was fine, but it was always like, just to be safe in case it's ruined beyond all use. But thankfully it turned out pretty okay. There's been a few jumps that I perhaps would have preferred to go without, but I didn't have the time to sort it all out, so that's just one of those things.
You don't look so good.
And one day I will successfully get a counterattack off on an enemy. It's one of those things, I was never good at it when I first played the game. I'm still not good at it, even now. Because I think my brain instinctively goes to the guard button. And so I pretty much always screw myself out of getting a counterattack because my brain goes, oh, it's a guard, oh crap, that was a counterattack. Balls. It's fine because I'd say really at the minute the counterattacks aren't as useful as they could be, because ultimately you can only use regular attacks,
Show me some determination.
and so that severely limits how much damage you can do on that counterattack, and therefore I'd argue they're not as useful as they could be. If it was a situation where you use your special attacks then getting a counter-attack off is brilliant to achieve. I mean, it's good if you can do it anyway, because I can't remember whether it stops the enemy turn and lets you have a bit more of a turn, or what. I can't remember, it doesn't really matter. But it just works a lot better when you can special attack off of it, because if you've got some echoes built up, then you can whack that out and do brilliantly well. But yeah, at this point we are so close to the end of the dungeon. So close. And you can see how many parts there are on this island. It was just like, oh my god. You've definitely got a chance to do a lot of levelling up here if you would like to. More power to you if you want to spend the time doing that. Particularly because obviously the longer you spend here, the easier time you're going to have on the boss that's coming up. Can't remember whether there is a boss at the end of this dungeon or not. Probably. But the main boss is the boss that comes at the end of Chapter 6. Because Chapter 6, all things considered, is actually relatively short in comparison to all of the other chapters in the game. Because obviously... no, I suppose. No, actually no. Because obviously Chapter 5 was like a grand total of 6 parts, most of which were quite long. Chapter 6, 5 parts, a lot of which are actually surprisingly short. Obviously, well, not necessarily surprisingly short, but the first part was really short. And the Takoda ruins haven't been particularly long, and the next dungeon's not particularly long either. So you can get through it really quickly. But obviously a lot of the earlier dungeons and chapters can take quite a while, all things considered. And certainly in comparison to the last main chapter, which it is going to take us bloody forever. This is just nice and compact, and I quite like that. I know it's one of the reasons ultimately why people sort of did criticise Eternal Sonata, because there was a lot of people who said, for a JRPG this is far too short. And I get that, it's not the longest JRPG in the world, but to be fair, I'm totally down for a bit of a short-ish JRPG. Because I mean, as I've said, time and time again, as you get older, other things begin to put a strain on the time that you have available to spend doing your hobbies. And so, if ever you've got a long game, it becomes much more difficult to complete it in a reasonable amount of time. And so, yeah, I don't like longer games now as much as I used to when I was younger, because I just don't have the time as much anymore. I just want to get through the game and have my fun with it and move on to the next one, because otherwise they just end up sticking around for a very long time. And that just makes me feel like I'm not getting on and doing stuff. I am, but there's just a lot of other stuff going on in life that needs seeing to first, rather than the hobby, which is obviously the way it should be. But I just like a shorter game these days, and that's totally fine. But here we go. This is our quick return to Suspicion Island. I believe the pillars that tell the story are those kind of circular, well, like, sort of ovular ones. Obviously I completely ignored them, but you got to hear the story of the kings, and it's basically very repetitive, so that's all good. But with no enemies on the final island, it's time to leave the Dakota ruins and see what awaits us at the Cello Tree. And I'm sure that it's going to blow perhaps a few minds, and it's just in general a really fascinating cutscene.
Olga, my dear, I knew you would be coming sooner or later.
Huh? How do you know my name?
It's certainly been a long time, hasn't it? I can't quite remember how many years has it been since last I saw you. It feels like it could have been only yesterday, but I suppose it also could have been hundreds of years ago.
You know her? No, I don't. I'm sorry, have we met somewhere before?
Not somewhere, my dear. We've met before right here in this very place. Because you're the only person who can draw a fortune here.
We met here, but this is the first time I've ever been to this place. Excuse me, but how is it that you know about me?
My dear, I'm afraid you wouldn't understand even if I explained it to you. And even if you knew everything, you cannot change fate now. And because you've arrived here right on time, I guess that means you didn't have any particular trouble this time either.
Ma'am, what are you doing here anyway? Don't tell me it's your job to just wait here for Polka to show up.
First, you are going to draw the fortune of bad luck.
Huh? Wait, does that mean you know what she's going to draw?
Yes, I know very well. You see, my job is to witness whether or not she ties that fortune to the sacred tree.
The sacred tree?
The tree standing right behind this fortune-telling hut. Its real name is the Cello Tree. It has stood on this land for thousands and thousands of years. For the tree, it's as if time is standing still, for it never grows any bigger, and it also never withers. And that is why the people who live in this land have come to call it the sacred tree. They think it's blessed because it doesn't age. Now, Polka, go ahead, draw your fortune. You will soon know whether what I have told you is the truth or not.
What do you think? Are you gonna do it? This whole thing is kind of weird.
I'll do it. I'll draw one. There's no way she could know what I'm going to draw before I do it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's because you don't know what you're going to get before you draw that you can have hope for the future.
Now then, my dear, go over to the sacred tree, and if it is indeed a bad fortune, you should tie it to one of the branches of the tree. By doing that, you will drive away the bad luck.
Oh no. All of them are bad luck. Who in the world is that old woman?
Well, Polka, how'd it go?
Where did she go?
Huh? Hey, yeah, she was here just a minute ago.
Oh.
Hey! Old lady! Where'd you go?
Beat, I don't think she's gonna come even if you shout. She doesn't have a reason to be here anymore.
Anyway, what was your fortune?
Well, it was just as she predicted.
Really? Oh. Well, I wouldn't worry about it. It's just a scrap of paper after all.
Come on, why don't we all get going? There's no reason for us to stay here any longer.
So yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? Who was that old lady? Why did she know that we were turning up? How did she know Polka's name? How did she know that the fortune she was going to draw was going to be bad? Doesn't really make much sense, does it? To be fair, I don't know whether it makes all that much sense even after this point. There is a sort of something that will begin to give you an inkling as to why this has occurred. But either way, we are out of the Dakota ruins, and it's time to head into actually what might be the actual anti-penultimate 100. I don't know anymore. I'll just be happy when we get to the proper penultimate one. But yes, it's time to head into the mountains. This is going to be great!